I recently watched Reality Check Inside America's Next Top Model on Netflix. And for me, it's just confirmed what I always felt about Tyra Banks, that she's a little fakey fake. The way this documentary started out made me feel like they were really going to get into a lot of juicy behind-the-scenes drama. But the longer I watched, the more I realized that we weren't going to get the whole truth because, in my opinion, Tyra was not being truthful. At least not all the way truthful. I loved ANTM. I watched up until like the 12th or 13th season, and then I was just over it. But something always bothered me about Tyra. I just never felt that she came off as genuine. Don't get me wrong, in no way do I deny this woman is talented. She's beautiful, ambitious, successful. She knew what she wanted, and she did not stop until she got it. She's very talented overall. But personally, something about her just never sat right with me. To me, J. Manuel, Miss J, and Nigel came across as really sincere, but I feel like they were holding back a little, which is understandable. You know, they wanted to be professional about it. They all worked together for so long and had a close relationship with Tyra, and I'm sure they probably didn't want to get sued either. I get it. But I was looking for and anticipating a true tell-all. The ANTM models that were in the documentary, they were the ones that really seemed the most sincere to me. They did not care at all about speaking the truth. And a lot of it was sad that these young girls went through these things so publicly. And yes, I'm sure a lot of people will say, well, that's what they signed up for. You know, they were on TV, they got their 15 minutes of fame, but the majority of them didn't get rich or famous. And as a matter of fact, I only know of 2 that were moderately successful after the show, and it wasn't even for modeling. Ava Pickford, she's since changed her last name to Marcel, and Yaya DaCosta. They both started acting and went on to have several acting roles. I only just learned from watching the doc that one of the other girls continued modeling after the show, but the rest of them, no clue. And there were over 300 contestants total on ANTM, with 24 total winners, but only 2 or 3 actually had any success after the show. A lot of these young girls, they were just following their dreams. They were given an opportunity to possibly have their dreams come true and thought they really had a chance, when in reality, according to them, they were basically being exploited for ratings, which we all know is a pretty common occurrence in reality TV. So it wasn't like they dropped a huge bombshell with this documentary. It was a little shocking coming to terms with the fact that they did a lot of controversial stuff on ANTM, not really thinking that what they were doing was that big of a deal, and that we all watched it like it was nothing. Now, watching the documentary, you realize, yeah, some of that stuff was really cringe. It was definitely a very different time back then. The most shocking to me was the girl that spent all night undergoing serious dental surgery to get her teeth fixed, like that's a normal part of a makeover. What really bothered me was when Tyra was asked if she could talk about what happened with her and J. Manuel, and she immediately shut it down. She did not want to talk about it. She said she'd prefer to just call Jay directly and talk about it because, you know, he's a special man. Girl, bye. You are just giving more credibility to everything that Jay and the others are saying. And let's not forget what happened to Ebony, Shandi, and Dani. These women were 24, 21, and 20 at the time. They did Ebony so dirty the way they treated her and tried to portray her. Not to mention the fact that they kind of strong-armed her into outing herself on national TV. And I can't for the life of me understand how Tyra, a black woman, allowed this young black woman to be so humiliated with the whole hair makeover situation. I'm not black, but I am fully aware that someone with a different hair texture than mine may need different hairstyling tools than what would work for me. And Tyra didn't know that? Or have the decency to immediately correct the problem? No, instead she chose to let it happen and then shamefully chose to air those scenes for the world to see. Now, while it was actually happening, Ebony played it somewhat cool, but I can imagine how mortified she must have felt at the time, as well as when the episodes actually aired and the whole world watched. Then there's Dani. This beautiful young woman, she was 20 years old at the time, was sent to the dentist to close her gap in her front teeth, and she decided not to follow through. They basically told her that if she didn't, she would go home. Not, you're going to be at a disadvantage because we feel like you have more of a chance of winning if you do this, but more like, if you don't do this, you won't have a chance at all, and we're going to send you home. I think Nigel said it best when he said that imperfection is beautiful and original. And Dani understood that. She liked her gap. But what was she going to do? Not comply and miss her chance at possibly becoming America's Next Top Model? Of course she doesn't want to go home. This was her chance, so I understand why eventually she did go through with it. And she did actually win that season, so I guess she might have felt it was worth it. And Shandi. Now this happened over 20 years ago, but as they started talking about it, I slowly started to remember the drama with Shandi and the whole cheating scandal. And I can't believe that 20 or so years ago, I didn't see it for what it was. From watching the documentary, am I crazy, or does it appear that Shandi was allowed to be sexually assaulted? This 21-year-old young lady was blackout drunk while all of this was going on. And the producers knew it and chose to not only film, but to air the scenes where it appears that Shandi's having intimate relations with some guy. When asked about the story with Shandi, Tyra expressed that, and I quote, "It's a little difficult for me to talk about production because that's not my territory. I'm not in the movie or TV business, so correct me if I'm wrong, but wouldn't being the executive producer of the show kind of put you in that territory?" Not buying it. When Ken Mock, the other executive producer of the show, was asked about it, he said that they treated this as a documentary and everything was going to be filmed and that the girls were made aware of that. Okay. But let's be real here. You are not anthropologists documenting a never-before-seen tribe of people living in the Amazon. You're not wildlife cinematographers trying to capture animals in their natural habitat. And you are most certainly not a team of space voyagers on a mission to seek out new life and new civilizations that follow the Prime Directive. Those would be the only acceptable instances where it would be unethical to engage. You produce a reality TV show, so you don't fall into any of those categories, and there's no excusing it. Especially when there was a 21-year-old young girl and significant amounts of alcohol involved. That to me is just reprehensible. I'm interested in hearing what you guys thought of this documentary, and more so, if anyone else feels the same way I do about Tyra. Because I don't think I'm crazy, at least not about this. Anyway, until next time, my friends.